Hello everyone, welcome to this online course delivered by Quaid Scotland. We are delighted to be delivering this course in partnership with ePlacement Scotland, Edinburgh and Napier University, Skills Development Scotland and Scotland IS. The course will cover different aspects of work experience programs such as student placements or internships and is aimed at employers to help them recruit, onboard and mentor students. To clarify, even though the focus of this course is on supervising and mentoring students, we will also cover other areas that are critical to enhance our understanding of the context in which the placements takes place. We will approach this topic from an equality, diversity, and inclusion perspective, and therefore will explain some of the key terminology and concepts that businesses need to be aware of. Welcome back. The course is split into three main areas: inclusive recruitment practices, fair work practices, and mentoring skills. In the first video, we've talked about the key concepts and terminology employers need to be aware of when offering student placements. The second video focuses on inclusive recruitment practices to understand how ED&I can help you widen your talent pool and provide a positive experience to the candidates throughout the application process. The third video explains the different principles of the Fair Work framework, how those principles are also applicable in a student placement setting, and the benefits that come with embedding the principles of the framework within an organization's practice. This is the fourth and the last video in this series, and it looks at the third section of this course, which is mentoring best practices. So in this video, we would be looking at the three aspects of mentoring. The first is the definition of mentoring and the key concepts. The second we'd be looking at is providing tips on how to frame the mentoring program. And the third section, we'd be looking at some best practice recommendations for mentors. So what is mentoring? Mentoring is a professional relationship in which an experienced person, which is the mentor, assists another, the mentee, in developing specific skills and knowledge that will enhance the mentee's career and personal growth. This is a structured process which can take place on a one-to-one or a group basis and can either be face-to-face, by telephone, or online. Mentoring can take different forms. It is important to set boundaries for yourself and the people you're supporting. And in an informal relationship, this should be at the back of your mind and can be verbalized to who you're supporting if necessary. There are some differences between mentoring and managing. Ideally, the mentor should not be the line manager, but we understand it may not always be possible to separate the two roles if your organization is a small one with limited staff. Some of the points to consider: in an ideal scenario, the line manager supports the employee mainly within their current role and is generally closely involved in the day-to-day operational and HR duties and responsibilities. A mentor can focus on other aspects of placement and work experience, providing a safe place for the mentee to learn, develop new skills, and reflect on their work experience. Because the employee reports to the line manager on the performance, there may sometimes be limits to what the employee wants to share. This is why having a third person to provide a mentoring experience can be beneficial. For some people, there's potentially more scope to explore issues or difficult situations with the mentor, and they can bring a different level of perspective as well. So what if the organization does not have the resources to offer a mentor to students? Having a line manager and a dedicated person who will be able to supervise and help the student during the placement should be the top priority. And in the absence of resources of bringing in another work associate as a mentor, the organization has two options. The first is you can try having a mentoring approach when managing the student. This means supporting the mentee's development, reflecting on the mentee's skills and strengths, and discussing long-term development plans with them. You can also contribute by sharing, where relevant and appropriate, your own experiences from current or past roles within the organization. The second option would be you can look for mentors outside the organization. Who else in the sector would be interested in mentoring a student? Do you have relevant partners or stakeholders who could be interested and have a relevant profile or experience to mentor the student throughout the placement? So why does mentoring work, and what are the specific benefits of mentoring within a workplace setting? So the benefits for the organization are that it increases individuals' performance and engagement. It demonstrates actionable organizational commitment to ongoing staff development and learning. It fosters an inclusive, diverse, supportive, and collaborative environment. And it also encourages transference of organizational and sectoral knowledge to the mentee. Benefits for mentors include it provides additional training and skills development. It creates an opportunity to give back and support a junior associate in their professional development, which fosters a sense of fulfillment and self confidence. It also offers a lens to reflect on one's own personal and professional development. It creates networking and knowledge transfer opportunities. It also enhances the individual's leadership competencies. How do we structure and frame the conversations within a student placement mentoring program? The topics of discussion should mainly focus on two aspects. The first being their current work experience, so where you can talk about the placement, the support they may need, helping them reflect on the learning outcomes and the experience in general and the skills they're learning or want to develop further. With regards to the aspirations and future career, you may want to consider discussing and reflecting about what transferable skills can they use in the future, what experiences were positive or negative during the placement, and what are the areas of the business or the role they found particularly interesting or not. A mentor's role is that of providing guidance, advice, feedback, and support to the mentee as a role model through sharing information about their own progression within the organization. They also provide guidance on entry pathways and routes to progression within the organization, as well as develop contacts and identify resources for the mentee. So there are some ethical considerations and considerations around confidentiality. So when structuring the mentoring relationship, the organization must give due consideration to ethics and confidentiality. Confidentiality is important because it helps to build trust, and a trusting relationship allows for open discussions and helps towards progressing the mentee to achieve success. The mentor's role is to respond to the needs of the mentee and not to impose their own agenda. The mentor should discuss confidentiality and its limits with the mentee, and the mentor should not intrude into areas the mentee wishes to keep private unless invited to do so. With regards to confidentiality and why it matters, both the mentee and the mentor agree about what information can be shared out with the relationship and what should be kept in confidence. A trusting relationship allows for open discussions and helps towards progressing the mentee to achieve success. We have mentioned earlier the 5 principles of fair work. These principles can help the organization in creating a positive experience. And as we've seen, these are relevant for all employees, including interns or students during a placement. We reflect here on how the 5 principles of fair work can also be applied to mentoring within a placement setting. In the context of effective voice, mentoring can help students feel more comfortable using their voice in the workplace, raising their concerns, asking questions, and sharing their opinions. By mentoring students, you create a safe space for them to have and use their voice effectively. With regards to the principle of opportunity, mentoring should focus on both the placement and their future careers. This means you have a longer term approach when mentoring and can help students create and find more opportunities in the future. When thinking about the principle of security, mentors can help mentees understand their rights in the workplace and what is acceptable or not acceptable, what will eventually create a safer space for them to navigate and stronger sense of security. What does the principle of fulfillment look like in practice? Mentoring does not only focus on the tech skills, role and work experience, but on also and on them as an individual and how they can grow personally and professionally and how they can gain soft skills. This will contribute to feeling fulfilled at work. And finally, when it comes to respect, being able to build trust and a positive relationship with the mentor is important for a mentee. And that is why inclusive mentoring or modern mentoring is critical, as it will help show that they are being respected and valued. This can create a sense of belonging and will also make them feel included. Structuring the mentoring experience. To help you design a fair and fulfilling mentoring experience through which students can be best supported, in this section we have looked at some guidelines that will help you navigate the mentoring process. Whether you're new to mentoring or already have some experience in line managing or mentoring experience, most of these suggestions would be relevant. We have addressed progressively by breaking down the mentoring process as different stages. So the stage one is about building rapport, and in this, it's about exploring how the mentor and mentee can work together to create a positive experience for both. This could include setting boundaries and expectations, clarifying the rules around confidentiality, the goals for the mentoring relationship, and some practicalities related to the mentoring sessions. There are also some good practice behaviors to be aware of when starting a mentoring relationship. So kind of having some questions in mind and letting these questions guide you in those interactions. So things like do what you say you're going to do, agree what you're going to do, and what you're aiming to achieve through your mentoring sessions. Be reliable and always do what you say you're going to do. Communicate openly and honestly. Discuss issues as soon as they arise. Ask for and give guidance. Don't be afraid to challenge. Your open, honest relationship will allow you to challenge your mentee constructively to explore a wider viewpoint. Being challenged constructively is an important part of the learning journey. Stage two is about setting direction. This is referring to the goals, giving the relationship a sense of purpose and working out what the short term, medium term, and long term goals may look like. Stage three is it relates to progression. This is the longest stage, and sometimes the process becomes iterative, where one may need to go back to the earlier stages. During this stage, the mentee demonstrates increasing confidence, independence, and autonomy. Stage four relates to the winding down of the mentee mentor relationship, where the mentoring experience is reviewed and any emerging achievements as a result of this relationship are celebrated. The final stage, stage five, is about moving on, where the relationship is reformulated and both the mentor and mentee agree on whether they want to bring the relationship to a close or whether they want to continue staying in touch. We are now going to look at some guidelines on how to build an effective first session. So first, it's about establishing a baseline knowledge at both ends, where you have shared an overview of your background, your professional journey, a little of your bringing, family constructs, etc., and you've gained an understanding of theirs as well. The second is where you establish a relational element in your interaction, where you've provided them an opportunity to get to know you as a person, your likes, dislikes, sense of humor, etc., and you've begun to do the same with them. The third point to consider is framing the scope of the mentoring relationship, where you have discussed principles of how you'd like to work together, including how you will review the progress of the relationship and exchange feedback. The fourth tip would be around intelligence gathering, where you gain an initial understanding of what brings them to mentoring. For example, their sense of purpose in doing this, their aspirations, or their goals. The fifth tip is about managing expectations, where you build a sense of where and how you might be able to help and support them. For example, it's most obviously in these areas, which are an area of expertise for you. There are some guiding principles or workplace norms which provide us with standards of communication in the workplace with our colleagues. And this would also include the mentee mentor relationship. Some of the norms the mentor should keep in mind are to actively listen, think about eye contact and body language, ask questions to show interest, allow time for thorough and deep conversations, therefore, allocate time realistically for these interactions, make I statements. So, for example, I think, I feel, from my experience, etc., are ways of framing your speech that opens space for the next person to engage in the dialogue. Take responsibility for how your mentee experiences your conversation. Acknowledge your own social location and modify your participation accordingly. So, being mindful of the dynamics that exist in the workplace and the position of power you can be in when mentoring someone who's discovering the workplace and may come from a different social background than yourself. The key norms to keep in mind are: do what you say you're going to do, agree what you're aiming to achieve through your mentoring sessions, be reliable, and always do what you say you're going to do. Communicate openly and honestly. Discuss issues as soon as they arise. Ask for and give feedback. Don't be afraid to challenge. Your open, honest relationship will allow you to challenge your mentee constructively to explore a wider viewpoint. Being challenged constructively is an important part of the learning journey. Example of questions you can ask your students. Why did you apply to this work experience placement? What led you to study your topic? Do you have any role models you look up to? What do you love doing? What skills or general areas do you want to develop? Do you have any long term or short term goals? Do you have any current challenges or boundaries at university or at work? What obstacles do you have to stop you from meeting your goals? How can I help you? Take a moment to reflect on what other tools or techniques are you aware of that can be used when mentoring students, and what have you learned in your career that you can pass on and share on with your mentee. We've selected a few tools that could be worth exploring in your own time, and we'll briefly go over some of these. So, first is the Cope's theory of experiential learning. It is based on the idea that people naturally prefer a certain single different learning style. Various factors influence a person's preferred style, such as their social environment, educational experiences, or the basic cognitive structure of that individual. By understanding the learning style of your mentee, you can enhance their progression and increase their confidence during the placement. Smart goals. Smart goals are not specific to mentoring, but are also used in organizations when reviewing and assessing employees' performance. They are effective because they're goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Providing this framework to students during the placement can help them structure their own work and define their priorities. Another tool is the GROW model, which is a framework commonly used in coaching and mentoring sessions. A good way of thinking about the GROW model is to think about how you'd plan a journey. First, you decide where you're going to go. That's the goal, and then establish where you currently are. That's your current reality. And then explore various routes, which are your options to your destination. And in the final step, establishing the will, you ensure that you're committed to making the journey and are prepared for the obstacles that you could meet on the way. SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is a popular tool in identifying gaps and opportunities within an organizational as well as an individual context. In the context of mentoring, it can be used by both mentor and the mentee. As a mentor, this tool would help you examine one's own mentoring practice, ability, and identify areas which can be developed further. It can be used as a reflective tool at the end of the mentoring program by yourself, or it can be used by the mentee to give constructive feedback in a safe manner as to how the experience was from their perspective. This tool also can be used by the mentor to help the mentee reflect on their strengths, weaknesses, and what opportunities and threats did they encounter during their placement. Take a few moments to make a note of the key takeaways from this session. Consider fair work practice in mentoring, how mentoring can be a positive experience and what norms need to be taken into account, what tools would be relevant in assessing the mentor-mentee experience within a placement setting. We have now come to the end of this section and to the end of this course. Thank you.